While I am no economist, I know firsthand, because I am living through it, that the cost of living has dramatically increased. It seems that the conventional definition of the American dream has never been as difficult to obtain as it is in modern times. And let us remember how previous generations, our parents and grandparents, got to reach the American dream in the first place through hard work and long hours. Their blood, sweat, and tears enabled them to buy property, save for retirement, get married, buy a car, and afford a quality lifestyle, including decent, healthy meals, traveling, and access to quality higher education. During the 1960s, the average family income was estimated at $5,600, and the median price for a home was $11,900. So, buying a home costs around 2.1 times the average salary of that time. In 2022, however, the average family income was $70,684, and the median home price ballooned to $440,300. This meant that owning a home in 2022 rose to more than 7 times the average salary. So one fundamental piece of the American dream is seemingly impossible to obtain in today's economy. And in this episode, we'll examine all of the pillars from the American dream and if it's still true that hard work truly pays off. Hello everyone, and welcome to this very special edition of Through Conversations podcast. Today I'm doing a solo episode and I'm very excited to do this one because it's near and dear to my heart. This is a chapter that I wrote on my upcoming book. I will share more details on it later on, and of course if you're more interested in learning more on it, I will share with you a link where you can read now some of the previews from the upcoming book, which is slated to be published between late to mid 2024 or early 2025. I'm so excited to share with you this episode because it'll cover a lot of themes that we've been discussing throughout the podcast, ideas that have transformed the way I see the world, the way I see my time on earth, how can I truly honor it. The title, I will still not share with you. You can look for it in the link that I will share in the notes, where I'm sharing more of the written form of my ideas. And so with that, let's get into this episode. Our grandparents, the baby boomer generation, were the primary members of the workforce at 33 years old on average. Unlike Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z, their hard work truly went into their pockets as their productivity grew, and compensation was directly proportionate to the work they produced. Productivity grew 118% from 1948 through 1979. And compensation increased around the same, 107% during that same span. So it's less than an 11% separation between work and pay. But something switched the wrong way during the 1970s. A series of policies began to be implemented that changed the playing field to favor the top workers, that is, the CEOs of companies and other corporate executives, as well as shareholders. Federal minimum wage leveled off, tax rates for the top earners were lowered, and deregulation of many industries, including the trucking and airline industries, proliferated. From 1979 through 2020, hourly pay increased 17%, while productivity increased 64%. In other words, productivity has become 3.7 times the amount of pay. In a perfect world, wages should equal productivity. That is, the output should equal the input, or even surpass it. And that was all the case up until 1979. Where did all of these excess potential earnings from productivity go? They had to go somewhere, right? They just couldn't disappear. Well, they swooped into the pockets of shareholders and corporate executives. In a very real sense, the top 1% is reaping most of the rewards from the bottom 99%. So the notion of hard work pays off has vanished. Productivity no longer equals higher pay, another pillar of the American dream, which is slowly vanishing. And what about savings for retirement? That's another one of the coveted dreams for Americans. For our grandparents, their dream was to become millionaires because it guaranteed a path to prosperity in the long term. And if they played their cards right, it could lead to generational prosperity. And now, let's talk about our grandparents' purchasing power back in 1979. Back in 1979, $1 million, in today's money, it would equal more than $4 million. In other words, A true millionaire in 2023 must earn around $4.5 million to enjoy the same quality as $1 million was worth in 1979. And Americans are estimated to be far from becoming millionaires, as more than 58% report they live paycheck to paycheck. While education is one of the great means of upward mobility, earning a degree has never been as expensive as it is today. The average amount of student loan debt per borrower in the United States stands at $37,000, and over the past years, this figure has been consistently rising and has now reached its highest point ever. Specifically, for individuals with a bachelor's degree, the average student loan debt is $32,000, whereas those with a master's degree carry an average student loan debt of $72,000, and it takes an average of over 20 years to repay that debt in full. Many people that I know that are passing their 40s still pay, right now, their tuitions, their loans from their college degrees. The combination of these economic factors plays a role in how younger generations view their relationship to their work and their life. What is the point of committing to a company when we know that excess productivity will not go into our pockets, but instead to a handful of people who don't even work within the company, but just own a piece of it? Why commit to more than 8 years, the average work tenure that was for baby boomers, when we know that our pension programs aren't as robust as they were for them, and our hard work does not equal good pay? Now, you might believe that I dislike capitalism and that it should be changed into a different economic system. That is not the case. I am not against the notion that hard work, consistency, and effort can create wealth and opportunities for everyone and anyone. It is by far the system that levels the playing field more than other alternatives in terms of making prosperity generally attainable. However, I do believe that we have been conditioned to believe that we're only productive assets in a balance sheet rather than creative machines. And we could partly blame capitalism for this, as it incentivizes economic growth over everything, prioritizing tangible, measurable objectives above all else. This means that we tend to be prioritized as employees, viewed as human capital rather than creative forces of nature. For many, this is a perfect way of living, as it allows for some financial cushion and stability. Nonetheless, for people who have a burning desire to create, to build, and to explore, it could lead to doom. Stability and working to make a living rather than feeling alive are, for most of us, a death sentence. I have worked in corporate America and have always felt something was a bit off, both within myself and the system in which I worked in. I felt like a big mesh inside a big machine, and that my efforts would just only continue to feed this machine, leaving me with a lifeless feeling. We have to be careful with what game we choose to play, as this game, it eventually finds its way to play us. Working just for a salary didn't work for me due to the transactional nature of that engagement. I felt that I would give up my time just to earn money every 2 weeks, like a small dosage of heroin, to keep me hooked on my job, anxiously waiting for the next paycheck. And as Nassim Taleb, the author of Black Swan, asserts, the 3 most harmful addictions are heroin, carbohydrates, and a monthly salary. On the flip side, capitalism does reward the best creation that is out there. And if we tap into the power of our minds and explore what makes us feel as if we are living an authentic life, and throw ourselves wholeheartedly into our craft, the remaining pieces will find their way to us and be perceived as something secondary to our path. We will collect these missing pieces, acknowledge and gladly accept them as symbolic outgrowths of following our hearts. These additional elements, whether they come in the form of relationships, material possessions, or career opportunities, will fulfill us when we recognize their inherent authenticity and we freely declare, I choose freedom. I did what was right according to the dictates of my mind and heart. Rather than seeing our time on earth as transactional, we can leverage the current systems to our advantage. Instead of fighting the current, we can immerse ourselves in the waters and create a current of our own and our own definition of currency. The biggest challenge is meaningfully shaping that current and choosing that path to create our own lane. The games we play are most always predetermined. The society tells us which careers to choose, And these have been already set with their own terms and conditions. And if you play those games, there will be rewards, but they will always come with a price. Remember, the games you play end up playing you. If we choose to follow a predetermined path without being authentic, we risk losing key pieces of ourselves, including core values, talents, and perhaps even dreams. The most dangerous thing to lose is probably ourselves, to an idea we don't necessarily believe in, all because we unconsciously accepted that the reward was something we wanted, without asking ourselves if it was actually our end goal. That's why most people choose to follow a pre-existing path, because few have built a strong foundation of self-reliance and self-awareness to envision what a meaningful life could look like otherwise. In today's society, within our capitalistic system, which is being ultra-powered with technology, we can leverage our tools to build our own path without taking too much of a risk. In other words, pre-existing paths do offer their perks, such as stability and uncertainty, but they fail to reconcile and merge these so-called rewards with purpose and fulfillment. Our modern tools offer the ability to expand the net, our net, seize more opportunities, and open more doors to serendipity without inflicting into real excruciating costs. For example, social media can connect you with people you admire. YouTube can teach you more about your interests. Online newsletters can offer a venue to share your ideas. A journal can allow you to vent and sort things out. Nature can give you space to ask a question and let the answers emerge. Your friends can lend you an ear. And so rather than jump into the next thing, we can take a step back, knowing that we have the tools to get us where we want to. This is all to say that even though our grandparents and parents flourished within the system they built on, right now the system is drastically changing, and our tools, our technological tools, can help us to leverage the pre-existing system and create our own definition of it, one that allows us to thrive on our own path and our own definition of what success truly means. And it is also true that capitalism sometimes incentivizes the wrong things, but it also gives creators a unique opportunity to conquer more territory in the playing field and leverage our talents at a little cost. Further, it is the only system that prices in the luck factor in life. It allows serendipity to flow between creators and creations. A great idea operates as a bridge connecting people from anywhere across the world. This new economy that I'm talking about needs to have modernized definitions of work and reward. And these ideas fueled my discussions with my late grandfather every time I told him that I wanted to switch jobs. Like many of his baby boomer peers, he did not understand how uncommitted I was to my job and how Gen Z cannot retain a job for more than 5 years. Although I had a deep desire to commit to one cause for a long time, deep within me I always felt I was not getting my piece of the pie for the work I produced. And also the looming statistics about the disconnection between productivity, earnings, and access to the coveted American dream have made me reflect how hard work, a value I deeply cherish and appreciate, and one that my grandparents and parents taught me, no longer necessarily guarantees prosperity in today's world. Today, we must embrace a different path towards achieving a new version of the American dream that disregards the old notions about owning a home, having a stable income, and saving enough for retirement, because, again, these are extremely difficult to get for most of Americans. This new vision embraces the ideal of creative freedom, honoring our time on Earth, and connecting hard work with smart work. Again, in a very literal sense, hard work no longer pays off. Few people, only a handful, are reaping most of the rewards, and that is because they understood that smart work will always yield more. Rather than focusing on grunt work, they invested the resources, such as capital, to acquire a part of a business or found their own. They also embraced the concept of leverage, which Archimedes coined. He famously said, quote, "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world." He recognized that by using a lever, a simple machine, one could multiply their force and achieve a greater effect. The longer the lever and the better the position of the fulcrum, the more significant the leverage and the easier it becomes to move an entire world. And Naval Ravikant, famous angel investor and thinker, embraces the concept of using leverage to amplify our efforts and resources as a force multiplier for our judgment. And without a doubt, technology, which I've been covering across my solo edition of episodes, as well as interviews with many brilliant minds, such as AI, has shifted the momentum from leveraging employers to placing control back in employees' hands. Current market conditions have shown us that hiring is tough and retaining good employees is even tougher. Why? Because employees know they are just one click away from changing their whole lives. We're just one connection away from building a completely new pathway in our lives. Take LinkedIn, for example. Right now, you can browse into a company's staff and their open positions. With just one click, one genuine message, you can connect with the hiring manager, introduce yourself, send your resume, and express your interest in joining their companies. Perhaps do this 100 times, 100 different companies that inspire you, that interest you, and you would work for them in the long term, and I guarantee you one will stick to the board. And with current advancements with AI, the ability to be productive has increased exponentially. In one article, a CEO expressed concern over the possibility that remote employees might be using AI to enhance productivity to such an extent they might be able to work 2 jobs simultaneously. He also expressed concern when talking about his content writers, who basically use AI to write all of their pieces. What was his solution? Rather than adding more incentives for employer retention, such as bonuses for performance or even educating himself on what AI could do for his company, he threatened to raise productivity quotas by 30 to 50 times the normal production. As writer Paul Millard, author of Pathless Path and a previous guest on the show, noted on Twitter, it is as if corporate America were built with the purpose of maximizing employees' suffering rather than productivity. When the old hierarchy rulers sense a drastic change in the social order, they tend to exert every single coercive tool they have. In other words, when they feel threatened, rather than embrace innovation, they try to block it and penalize those who leverage it to enhance their productivity and, consequently, their time on Earth. James O'Shaughnessy, a world-renowned investor, writer, and founder, and previous guest of the show, encapsulated this idea brilliantly on X. One can assume that the old guard will do everything in its power to hang on to their place in the societal hierarchy, and it isn't a coincidence to see them spreading and injecting fear, uncertainty, and doubt into the discussion about AI, perhaps the most disruptive innovation of my lifetime. End quote. These disruptive technologies allow us and enable us to expand our optionality. And not only that, they also serve as truth-revealing tools in terms of the loopholes corporate America has and the real reason we get most of our jobs, to maximize profits. Let me expand upon this idea. If the developers who are using AI to work 2 jobs were happy and found meaning in their first job, and money was no part of the equation, they would not find more ways to extract as much money as possible from the system. These kind of behaviors are the exact reflection of the system. Employers extract as much as they could from their employees, and now the employees may have the upper hand. AI is revealing the truth we all know. Most of us are not working at our jobs for the love of the job itself. Instead, we subconsciously use these newfound technologies, such as AI, as a response to the deeper realization that, if given the chance, we would rather have machines doing our jobs rather than us spending our time on Earth as if we were the machines. In other words, AI is revealing all the bullshit jobs we wished we didn't do. Now, the aftershocks of using these technologies won't give the employees the leverage forever. The CEOs also realize that AI can replace jobs that can be made by actual machines. IBM announced that they will pause all hiring jobs AI could do, with more than 7,500 jobs at risk of being replaced by these technologies. Moreover, a report by Goldman Sachs projected that up to 300 million jobs could be fully automated using AI. This means many of us who have allocated most of our focus and time to our careers will have to drastically rethink where we find purpose in our life. What will we do with this newfound time that is not being invested in a job that could have been automated all along? How will people who rely on their jobs cope with unemployment? How will the economy sustain such disruptive movements in the social hierarchy? Most likely, you have heard that these technologies will only create new types of jobs. While this is probably true, these jobs might have 2 purposes: to keep people employed and to do routine maintenance to these technologies. In other words, it is possible that these jobs won't become more thrilling, purpose-driven careers for us. They will just change form, but not their essential function. But before AI comes for our jobs, before the whole economic system collapses, before we find ourselves trying to find a new identity, one that is no longer tied with our work, and before these technologies could be used for stricter coercion in our jobs, we can leverage these technologies to build a life of creative freedom, prosperity, and optionality. We could literally create a new system, a new economic system that truly unleashes prosperity for everyone, and that we could really redefine the American dream, one that is built upon this freedom, this creativity, one that is built upon our creative spirit, our creative interests, and also our newly found sense of how we can honor our time on Earth. The playing field of AI is an entirely new arena. It is literally uncharted territory with endless possibilities. Our creative nature and potential can be wholly unleashed, and AI can be a powerful tool to unbind the golden handcuffs to which we have chained ourselves. This is the moment you must remind yourself that you always have options. The moment they tell you this is all you got, that is when you have lost the game. In a world of rapid automatization and disruptive technologies, the real impact will derive from the activities we pursue that bring us inner fulfillment. The rest of the jobs will be finally revealed for what they are. Bullshit jobs we have built to stop ourselves from exploring our true creative nature, our true inner exploration of the self and who we are in this world. And that is how we build a new system, one that is built upon our creative interests, and what is built upon building unlimited prosperity for everyone. As you can see, I'm very passionate about the future of work, about the future of what it means to live a life that honors our time on Earth, one that honors our creative interests, one that honors our creative passions, and how new generations, Gen Z, millennials, have been trying to express these ideas of trying to redefine what work means. And perhaps with AI and with new technologies, we can truly accomplish this. We can accomplish a new future for all. I am glad more people are interested in these ideas and are interested in how we can honor our time on Earth and how can work become that venue, that path for us to do that. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with a loved one. And if you listened up until now, I would greatly appreciate it if you rated the episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And also you can subscribe on YouTube if you're watching. I thank you for watching. I thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Share with me your thoughts on the future of work. Share with me your thoughts on these type of episodes that I'm sharing, some of the ideas that I'm teasing ideas from my upcoming book. And let me know your thoughts. I really thank you for watching. Take care.